Yeah, I'm Shershah, one of the co-founders and the CEO at KalPay. I did my accounting and finance bachelor from Lahore University of Management Sciences and have done CFA level 1. Prior to KalPay, I was leading digital marketing at a US-based digital marketing agency. After that, in 2020, I joined KalPay full-time.
Hi, I'm Waleed, one of the co-founders and the CEO at KalPay. I graduated from LUMS with a degree in accounting and finance. Post-graduation, I worked at Zameen as a business intelligence analyst and joined KalPay in June 2021 after we closed our pre-seed round.
I was working on a project during my time at LUMS where we were studying the local industry and looking at the local consumer market in Pakistan. We saw a big gap in the consumer financing industry, whereby just less than 1% of the adult population had access to formal credit. That's where the idea of bringing a buy now, pay later solution to Pakistan came in, and that's where the idea of KalPay started.
So at KalPay, what we do is we partner up with brands and merchants and we allow consumers easy access to Shariah compliant credit. So essentially, customers can go on to any of our partner brands and purchase products by splitting their payments into three. There are no additional costs for the customers. It's completely free for them. So essentially helps them in better financial management. So after we started, the major hurdle that we faced was essentially getting people aware of the credit facilities in Pakistan and how we are different from them, and getting them aware as to how this can help them build their credit history so that they can avail further formal financial credit from banks such as house loans and car loans. So that was, I feel, the most trickiest part to explain it to people, how the whole ecosystem essentially works.
So we were part of NIC's 6th incubation cohort during the very early days of KalPay back in October 2020. It was around a 4 to 5 month cohort that we were a part of. NICL helped us in multiple ways. A, by connecting us with mentors. During the sessions, which were taught and led by renowned faculty members, both from Pakistan and abroad. And thirdly, the biggest benefit was the network access that we got through them. We were connected to industry experts, investors, and many other people from fintech industry. During the early days of KalPay, both Waleed and I were bootstrapping it. So we were working at our jobs during the day and working on KalPay at night. This was also the time when we were a part of NICL. So while we were working and learning from our jobs, we were also taking the lessons here and interacting with our mentors and learning and building KalPay.
The greatest achievement, I'd say, or for the matter, what I think every entrepreneur learns during the journey is they learn to do everything quite early on and very quickly, I'd say, because if you look at comparatively everyone else who's working, they'll learn these things over a course of 3, 4, 5 years. But considering the position that you're at, the job pressure that you have to do all of these things, even if you like them or not. We have done a lot of things. We've done sales, marketing, we've done HR, and that's not because we like it, but because we had to. Otherwise, if we don't do it, no one else would. So I think that's the greatest thing that an entrepreneur can get out of the whole journey, is getting to know everything and getting to essentially get their hands dirty and know how everything is done, rather than just watching someone or asking someone to do it for them. Being in this journey, a lot of people would essentially envy to get a lot of meetings. There's a ton of things to do. And one thing that's really difficult for most people is managing their schedules and how they go about meetings or doing anything, basically. The greatest thing, which is free as well, that you can use is Google. Use calendars to essentially schedule everything out and take meetings. That, I know it sounds very rudimentary because everyone says that notes lene chahiye, take notes in classes or whatnot, but that actually helps because obviously your brain is a processor. It's not a hard drive. You can't store a lot of stuff. You can just process it. So you need to write things down and go back to them when you want to circle back and see ke baat aapne kya ki thi, what did you talk about, what were the outcomes or not. Yeah. Being a successful entrepreneur, I'd say, or just being an entrepreneur, there pretty much any good skill that you can think of is really important, but 5 major ones I'd say are: firstly, agility. You need to be really agile about what you're doing so that you can shift around ideas and you're thinking super fast because the industry is ever changing. Secondly, you need to be really honest about what you're doing. Honest about it to yourself, to your employees, as well as to your investors as well. If you lie about it, you can get away with it, but not for long. You also need to be super confident. Fourthly, you need to be persistent. And finally, just be yourself. It's not really a skill, but it's a persona that you need to embolden yourself with, because once you start to impersonate someone because they're raised a certain round or they start doing such things a certain way, that's when you start to lose yourself, because a lot of the investors that just invest in you rather than in the idea itself. So if you lose yourself, then what's to say you'll lose your ideology or the focus that is your idea that you were working on.
We are currently leading a team of around 25 people, which is spread across product, tech, operations, marketing, and business development. One of the most important aspects that I've learned over the past few months or years is that you need to communicate and be very open with your team to get to know what they're thinking of, and they should also have a clear vision and a pathway as to where they're headed and the entity is going as well. So I try to communicate with them regularly on a one-to-one basis as well, along with team meetings that we have either bi-weekly or monthly. When it comes to our finances, from day one, we have tried to stay lean by not burning a lot of cash in things that do not result in increasing productivity or helping the entity reach its goal. In order to market our startups, a few things that we have used really well over the past few months is, number one, word of mouth. So if you provide your customers with a really good service, they become your marketeers as well. So they go out and talk to their friends and their family and market your services. Secondly, we have reached out to people within our network and within our circle as well. Email outreach has done really well too. And social media, and particularly Instagram, has been really good for our outreach. During my time at NICL and post that as well, because we are stationed out of NICL, I've seen that there is a certain lack of expertise when it comes to certain domains that most entrepreneurs globally have. That's where incubation centers in Pakistan can come in. We need to make sure that people and leaders have the necessary skills that they need to scale and build startups that can operate and scale globally. Some of the domains that I think where incubation centers can be really resourceful and helpful is allocation of capital, help with legal, financial, and marketing material, which can go a long way for the founders and their teams.
Entrepreneurship, if you look at the definition, is essentially starting up a business and taking a risk and hoping for profits. How I see it is essentially taking a huge risk and hoping for not just profits, but solving a problem essentially. A lot of people just see it as opening up a business or starting up a business. I see it as identifying a problem and coming up with a creative solution that not only puts you in a profitable position, but at the same time helps the people as well. It creates value for the overall ecosystem as well. A really great metaphor that I enjoy telling people is that's very good for investors' perspective as well, is that they invest in riders, not on horses. And that's the people, not the idea or the startup. So you are the one who they're putting money into. They are trusting you with ensuring that you will do right by them and right by yourself as well.
The coursework and the whole incubation period should be built in a way whereby people relevant to the industry and the startup ecosystem should play a part in it. So essentially what I'm trying to say over here is there are certain skills that are taught to you at universities and colleges, but they may not be that relevant when you go out into the industry. So when you get people who have had relevant experience, entrepreneurs, co-founders or ex-founders, or even investors for a matter of fact, they give you a different perspective and a perspective that really helps founder when they step out into the industry. So that's one thing where incubation centers should really focus on.
In terms of our future plans for our startup, what we envision that we'll achieve is essentially ensuring that the underbanked and the unbanked, especially those who do not have a financial credit history, get access to ensuring that that history is being made, that data is being generated through our startup. And over time, what we want to do is we want to enable people to access those things which are a necessity or something that will greatly improve their quality of life. That could be something as basic as education even. So enabling them over there, giving them facilities so that they can achieve a greater level of, again, speaking of education, for example, and enabling their future lines to go through a better pathway compared to what they went through. So that's what we want to do, enable people to achieve more with their life and get more out of what they essentially can, but they do not really know how to achieve.
Another set of goals that we have include building a world-class product which creates stickiness for our merchants and for our customers and helps us generate more revenue. And secondly, creating a sustainable and a clear path to profitability. Where the markets are headed now, growth at all costs is no more the king. Becoming profitable and sustainable over a longer period is what startups are going for, and that's our goal as well. A few of the problems that incubation centers in Pakistan, I believe, are facing include firstly, access to private capital. Getting access to private capital can not only help incubation centers build better and comprehensive cohorts for their startups, but their startups can also benefit by getting access to that capital and building their companies. Secondly, the network and the sort of people that can be a part of incubation centers. Currently, I believe not many relevant people from the industry are taking part in these cohorts and in these courses. If they were to join the incubation centers, it would benefit the startups a lot as they would give many important insights for these people. Since I myself came up with the idea of KalPay during the very last days of my college or my time at LAMS, I can relate to a lot of people who are currently university students and trying to get their startups up and running. My advice would be to focus on getting relevant skills and being part of organizations that are going through the same stage before setting up your own entity. Because when you are part of an organization or a startup that is operating at a similar or a better stage, you get to learn a lot from your peers and you actually get an idea as to how those startups operate. And that's when it's the best time to step into your own startup. My 3 words for NICL would be ideation, networking, and mentorship. My experience at NICL was great because it was at a stage when we were quite early on into our venture, and it helped us ideate and become what we are today.
I agree with what Shershah said in terms of the 3 words for NICL. And other than that, in terms of experience, I believe NICL helped us at a time when, despite learning quite a lot of things, there were still some areas that we lagged in. And that's where they came in and supported us in a way that would have otherwise been really difficult, especially, for example, legal. So I think overall, the whole process, the whole idea of NICL or incubation centers is just to, help bootstrapping startups, give them that support that they need to essentially build their base based on which they build their whole companies moving forward.